No guns, no knives, no drugs. That's it. Now, if you want to fight, we'll start a boxing team, and then we'll go 3 rounds with 3 others, and then we're going to hug each other because you know why? You are my brother's keeper.
Yeah. If this 9-year-old was 3 months older, he was facing kidnapping charges.
The goal is to not have them come back to DYS. So, easing them out of the system from their initial engagement.
Welcome to Smart Justice. In this season of Smart Justice, we looked into the complexities of juvenile justice and the efforts being made to help straighten the future of the next generation. One important partner in this effort to best support young people is the Department of Human Services. I sat down with Arkansas DHS Secretary Kristi Putnam to talk about the crisis facing our youth and how we can begin to turn the tide.
A year and a half ago, we were talking about what do we need to do the next season for Smart Justice on, and you said we need to do juvenile justice.
I did.
And so this is an update for us. We did all last year, all 2024. We traveled the state. We met with the leaders that are engaged in some part of that juvenile justice system. And we wanted to have this live update show as we're dropping those episodes now to kind of give everyone an update on what's occurred since we've filmed. So why don't you tell us a little bit about why juvenile justice?
Yeah, why juvenile justice? And this really stemmed from the opportunity that came to us. It was gifted to us about 6 months in. Deputy Secretary Janet Mann and I were working with some partners on some issues that were identified in our juvenile justice system in our facilities. We had a series of challenges and issues, and what really struck us was that this is a very small population of kids. We're talking between 3 and 350. We'd like that to be smaller, but that's more work on the prevention side. But this population of kids, they're in their community, they're in their county, the judge sentences them to us, and they come to us for their period of residential treatment, and they just sort of go, they're forgotten about, and not to us, but they're out of sight of the community, they're no longer causing issues, and so the community just sort of assumes that they're going to be fine. What we found is that there were some challenges and opportunities within our residential facilities that we wanted to start addressing and we wanted to bring to attention, and we wanted the communities to re-engage with their kids that were with us for a period of time.
So as we were talking with the leaders around the state, one of the issues that was kind of preeminent for many of these children was they're using substances, and the substances that they're using are wildly different than maybe a generation ago.
Very
they're
different.
Stronger, they're more
Yes.
dangerous. And so the need was to provide additional services, substance abuse services for youth. And so I think since we did the original film for those episodes that are dropping off, DHS has made some investments in just that. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Janet?
Sure, thanks. So middle of last year, we put out about $20 million worth of grant and funding opportunities for mental health and substance abuse, and some of that focuses on adolescents. We are focusing on juvenile justice, but we did realize quickly that adolescents throughout the state need some substance abuse coverage and access to care. So in this area alone, we're looking at how do we help them with their substance abuse and doing some pilots so that we can then take those results and design some long-term programs that can then be carried into other programs at DHS.
So that's what you're talking about, is some of that could be reentry for the youth that are coming out, but really this is a prevention angle.
It is. We're trying to prevent kids always coming into any type of care. And with substance abuse, we're finding it's younger and younger children sometimes. So is there a way to do some prevention in the community and upstream so that they don't get committed to us? And if they do get committed, then we want to give them the access to the care that they need while they're with us.
And I think along with that commitment, we discovered that judges were sending kids to DYS because there was no availability of adolescent substance abuse treatment. And so as an alternative, the youth might need substance abuse treatment. And Janet and Director Michael Crump, have worked together with our team at DHS more broadly to make sure that we are directing some of that funding to do that so judges have an option.
Yeah, because incarcerating someone that needs substance abuse, it's very expensive. We need the beds.
We do.
And for people that maybe are violent, but also it's like $320 some odd dollars a day if you're just needing a substance abuse service. So this is a much better.
Yeah, actually, if they've been committed to DYS, then they've been committed to a residential facility, but that is before any other health care needs. And so their substance abuse or their mental health needs are above and beyond that. And so really, if they've been committed to DYS for something by a judge, and it's appropriate for residential, but we really would like to see adolescent services be done in a different type of setting, the lesser setting, to be able to treat that as opposed to just being in a residential setting.
How do youth, if anyone's listening and they've got a loved one that's maybe struggling, how does someone help their loved one access kind of some of these services?
I think some of the easiest ways to do that is to seek out some help from their county offices. For DHS, there's a county office in every county. I think with getting some access to some of the benefits that we provide, and then being able to work with different people in the community to see what kind of care they can receive.
And then maybe reaching out to their community mental health center. You know, there aren't 75 of those, but
no, there's 12 throughout the state, and so the community mental health centers are there. They do try to have some adolescent programs, but those are few and far between, and that's some of the gaps we're trying to fill.
Great. Okay, I understand there's some cottages also that you're investing in.
There's a lot more than just
Yeah.
looking at some, providing some substance abuse treatment options. And so, looking at Division of Youth Services as a whole, what our team discovered is we have opportunities to really sort of expand our reach and the level of service, the continuum of care. And Janet has been hard at work with our team on all of those things.
Yeah, so DYS offers residential care, also offers some home and community-based programs and some aftercare. But really, if you are in residential care, and then if you don't need to stay the full time, or if you've served your time and want to work your way back into the community, we are piloting we're calling them cottages, and we're treating them as step down, so that if you've been in a residential setting with a very strict schedule and very structure, then stepping down to a cottage, which still has oversight and still has some guardrails, but then eases you back into the community. And the goal is to have the kids that have been committed do that when it's appropriate, and then work into the home and community-based and the aftercare programs. The goal is to not have them come back to DYS. So, easing them out of the system from their initial engagement.
That's great. I kind of started this whole do-gooder journey 20 years ago with adult corrections. And a part of kind of reentry, a common refrain to many people is change your people, places, and things. And that's something that a youth didn't have the opportunity to do. And so I think this provides maybe an opportunity where maybe they shouldn't go home or don't want to go home because they'd be less likely to be successful. It can provide kind of that step down and easing out, maybe even until they are able to get their own place one day. That's great.
Well, and they may be able to go home after a stay in the cottage. It may be a transition period to where they need to make some changes or change some habits, or really, be able to put some boundaries up for themselves and maybe go back to their family, their place of origin. I think there's also been a lot of work done with our community partners who provide resources to both the families and to the youth when they come back out of care and they're going back to their communities. So I don't know if you want to touch on just some of the community partner work.
Well, the home and community-based partners are stepping up and really wanting to bridge that gap with what we're calling it community reintegration with the cottages, and really working with the residential contractor. And so being able to offer those services, a little more freedom, learning from their environment. We're also trying to do a little more with our education. One of the gaps we found is during the pandemic and even prior to the pandemic, we were using a lot of virtual education, but that's hard. And so really putting more emphasis on education and getting them more engaged. And we've even created a partnership with Celine Technical to look at different 6 and 8 week programs or even longer to develop a skill and have a skill when they leave, so that there's something constructive that they've done with their residential stay.
Outstanding. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. You know, about, I guess it was about a year ago when we started filming, I got a call from the chief of police in Fort Smith, Chief Danny Baker, who has been a partner of this community-based 100 families there for some time. And he said that he had just finished completing his statistics, crime statistics, for the city of Fort Smith, and crime was down again, but juvenile crime was up. And so he called the Fort Smith Police Department called a community meeting, and they were, what are we going to do about this?
Right.
And so they started a program with Officer Blake Scott in Fort Smith PD, called Shield Our Youth, which is a community-based model in partnership with the police department. And I can't remember which episode we were on, maybe 3 that just dropped, Officer Scott. But why don't you give us some updates? It was a dream, I think,
Yes,
when
sir.
we were filming,
Yep.
but now it's real.
Yes, sir.
And
Well, I
so
appreciate.
what does real look like?
Yeah, well, real looks like, first and foremost, thanks for having us here. I appreciate the invite. And,
Hey,
when
I
we.
got some parking tickets. Can you after
see,
this thing?
yeah, see, maybe we're in Little Rock, so I don't know how far that'll go. But Fort Smith, I have to talk to some people. But when this first started, our chief was telling about our property crimes was a big issue with breaking and enterings and juveniles doing crimes that we would, put in front of a judge, but these kids were still doing the same things once they got out. So what we wanted was some intervention to try to alleviate and try to minimize the crime as much as we could. So Chief saw it in me. He knew me a little bit, knew my mom, which worked for Comprehensive Juvenile Services. She was the assistant director there. So
That's an organization that's in the Sebastian County area
Yes,
that
sir.
partners with DYS.
Okay. Okay.
yeah, and so my mom did that for 25 years, which she passed in 2023. So I figured I wanted to continue her legacy working with juveniles, and this was a perfect opportunity for me. So the chief knew where my heart stood. It began with, us having that issue, and, I wanted to do something about it. I had the uniform on. My childhood, I was not pro-police at all. I was definitely against that. And,
Isn't it funny?
I know.
The journey.
Yes, sir. The turnaround, and I tell these kids, statistics say that if you get arrested, you stay in the system. But I define that, and I feel like just because, they are dealt a bad card, that it's not the end, that they can turn that around and be prosperous and be successful in society. And so
Fort Smith has dedicated you to
Yes,
this,
sir.
this
Yeah.
program.
This whole initiative.
Yeah, it's just me. So, and we know, we do the mentorship with 100 families, which was wonderful. Courtney, she's the coordinator now. When we were riding together, it's like we're in the home helping. I'm mentoring the kid, speaking to the kid, and she's there getting the family into Hope Hub, which changed everything. There's families right now that thanks us every day that I'm out. They thank the organization and the process that they're getting the help and with the correct people right now. So
Well, there's a lot to be said for being, of the community,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
When you come to the state, we love kids too, but we want the kids to stay in their communities. It's a far
Yeah.
better place for them if they've got the right resources, and you're providing that.
yes, ma'am, we're trying to, and like I said, I know it's a little difficult being one person. When being in Fort Smith, we have 90,000 plus people there, and I'm trying everything I can to help, even if it's one kid at a time. I'm here for that. That's what I'm built for. That's what I'm put the uniform on, is to try to change.
So what does that look like? You said you've got someone from the community that's a part of 100 families. They were doing some ride-alongs. Y'all would go into a home. How do you find out which home to go to?
So we did it on a 911 call. So if somebody called and said, I'm having a problem, juvenile call or runaway call, or, they're having a runaway with their child, we get a call for service number. Once they call dispatch, there's a call for service number that's established. And what I do is every morning I'll do a follow-up and see, problem juvenile calls, runaway calls. And then once there's a phone number established to that, I'll make the phone call to the family and see if there's anything we can do. And, some
How receptive are they?
at
Not
first,
When Popo's calling the home and saying, "Hey, you got a 911 call, and I'm calling again,"
yeah.
How does that discussion go? How do you earn the trust? I guess.
So what I try to do is, I really believe that it was the work I was doing while I was on patrol was building those relationships, being the being in community relations.
You've got a reputation.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we try to teach that to our cops too. Like, you got the uniform on. People are not going to be very receptive of you. They're going to judge you before you even step out of that car just because of the badge. But you have to do your own work. You have to do your homework. You have to do your follow-ups and be, open-minded and plus approachable. And I think that is, to me, 95% of mine is the approachable. I don't, I'm not there to, I'll try to say a joke or something to try to break the ice to let them know, like, hey, this cop ain't here to take me to jail. But at first it was a big issue because, that cop car being in front of the home and then the neighbors get involved, or if they're in an apartment complex, the landlord's like, hey, why is the cops always there? So, which I have different approaches. I'll wear a, uniform on the initial approach because I want to build that trust between that juvenile and the police or the family and the police. And then I'll wear a suit or something just pertaining to what the issue is or what the follow-up is. If we have court, I'll wear a suit, let them know, like, hey, this is serious. You need to look your best, try to, as if, your life is on the line. That's what I try to instill on them and try to, like, appearance is everything. Because I used to be that kid that had my pants down and my mom was like, hey, people's going to judge you just off what you have on and they don't even know you, And so I try to instill that on the kids, that things that my mom taught me about appearance and, perception.
Perception's reality.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're in the home now, and
Yes,
you're
sir.
building that rapport. What then happens?
So what me and Courtney, our little A and B, what we would do is I would try to get the kid, talk to him like, hey, I know what you're going through. If I didn't, I'm not going to sit there and lie to them because I don't want to tell them a lie or false hope or anything. So I'll take the kid aside, speak to them, try to build some type of relationship up, like, hey, what's going on? Who you hanging out with? What's our grades like at school? Things like that. And she's in there speaking with the family, with the consent, with the adult, getting them into Hope Hub, which, like, I would be the advocate for that. It changed lives 100%. Any time y'all ever need me to advocate for that, I got multiple stories for
Just
that.
connecting them to
100%.
resources that are already in the community.
Yes, sir. Because they're there, and it's the people don't know. They're like, hey, I didn't know nothing about this. I didn't know nothing about this, and I really feel like it was our job to inform them and educate them on that. And so when she would get them in the Hope Hub and get the help that, if it was financial help, educational help, or anything, pertaining to the situation that's in that, as a whole. And while she's doing that, I'm speaking to the juvenile, building that relationship up, letting them know, see what I can do for them, kind of get their schedule, because I do follow-ups with schools. If they're at Boys and Girls Club, I do that. And if a lot right now is incarcerated juveniles, I'll go into the jail with my uniform on, and I'll ask the deputies if they can just release them. And I'm just in there talking to them like we're just, friends, which they, appreciate that. Some are, again, kind of like held off, like we don't talk to the police, but those are the ones I kind of key on to try to change it, because I just want to change the perspective. If it's one kid we can change, I feel like it's a success story.
That's great. If you were talking to other police departments around the state about what you all do, or if they're interested in some type of law enforcement-based approach in this way, what would you kind of recommend?
First, I would tell a police department to find the officers that care, and find the ones that's just, some officers, are about traffic stops, some are fighting crime, which is needed, of course, but you have to find those officers that's open and, vulnerable, and, that have those difficult conversations to the community, because the community, like I said, one person wearing this uniform and wearing that badge can change everything. And you have to find that one officer or two or multiple that care for the community and want to change the, you know, perception of what somebody may have done 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So that's the first thing I would do is find and, you know, mold those officers to be community-based officers.
We talked a little bit just a minute ago with Deputy Secretary Janet Mann about, you know, what we're seeing in our youth facilities, and what we're seeing is just a significant increase in youths coming in for gun violence crimes. You know, substance abuse is also way up, younger, more potent substances. But can you speak a little bit to what are you seeing out there among our youth?
Yes, ma'am. So our crime analyst enforcement just did our 5-year average report, and our property crimes, which, you know, was at a max high a year ago, has went down for the first time in over 5 years. So property crimes, meaning like kids getting into vehicles, kids stealing things, those were what we keyed on, and we're trying to build those relationships up. But on the flip side of that, our violent crimes are up. Our robberies, our, you know, crimes against people, those are up. And I don't, you know, I wish I had an answer of why that is, but you know, I more and more research and me talking to these kids, you know, there are some concerning behaviors that they tell me, that are like, hey, you know, I had this gun. I'm like, you know, don't let, you know, a gun changes everything, because now these are classified felonies. You get caught with this gun in juvenile, then that's a whole different charge. You know, you can be charged as an adult. But, you know, some of the things these kids are saying is like, I need this. You know, they're saying for protection. They you know, they're scared of, I've had juveniles tell me they're scared of their friends. They're going to turn on them. You know, and if they're in a drug trade or something, they feel like, hey, I need this for protection. And, you know, a lot of things that I was taught by my elders and families of saying I'd rather be carried by 6 than tried by 12, you know, they mean that. You know, they're saying that now, and it's like at an all-time high, and it's kind of just concerning about the violence that is toward, and, you know, the mindset these kids have right now toward that. It's like they don't care, you know, some of them, but I don't know. I wish I had a answer of why, but I don't know. It is very concerning.
That was common when we were traveling across state, meeting with leaders, was the violent crime on the rise for juveniles was very concerning by all.
Yeah.
Crime in general increasing in juveniles, as you indicated, but specifically the violent crimes.
Yeah, now I have a 9-year-old, which is, you know, that's a whole nother story. That if this 9-year-old was 3 months older, he was facing kidnapping charges.
9 years old.
9 years old, yep. Multiple kidnapping charges, because he had locked a couple of 8-year-olds in a shed with a padlock on the outside, locked them in there. One of them had a broken face, and lip was split with the teeth, lost a couple of teeth. But yeah, I was just, for that kid being that young was kind of eye-opening to me. And, you know, with our laws, if he's 10 years old, you know, we can arrest, but with him being 9, we push up to the prosecutors, and of course the age, they decline to file.
Right.
But yeah,
that's really concerning.
Yeah.
And then those are the kids that end up coming to us, to our youth facilities.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And I just went this past Friday, went to Mansfield, to the treatment center, and spoke to, it was 42, 45 juvenile males. And, you know, that was the first time that they said they seen a cop there, and they let us speak. And there's another officer that is with me that does a crisis intervention. She's a female, and she has a resiliency project, is what she does with working out, you know, and kind of get their mind, you know, occupied with working out and not, you know, thinking about the things they're doing. And that was very well received from them, and they thank us and want us to come back for that. So yeah, we're working definitely in Sebastian County. You know, I'm sure as other counties, I'm sure they have the same mindset, but you know, if there's anything that we could do, we'd be more than happy to help in anything.
You okay if any law enforcement's interested, they could contact you? And
yes, sir. Yep. They can
learn
contact
more
me
about how you're doing.
Oh yes,
things.
sir. Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Anything that, like I said, I'm all I'm all open. If they need me, this, if it's one word or one sentence that I could do, I'm here for that. I feel like that's what my purpose is, and I'm more than open to doing anything I need to help.
Well, you're doing amazing work, and we're grateful that you went out to Mansfield. We definitely would be open to you going to the other facilities we have across the state.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much
Yes,
for
sir.
what you're
Thank
doing
you.
to serve the community.
Oh, I
Appreciate you very
it.
much.
I appreciate the invite. Thank y'all.
Look
Thank
forward
you
to
so
seeing
much.
how this changes
That's
over
right.
the next year.
Yeah, relationships building.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I just got a text from Judge Ernest Brown, who said that Pine Bluff, who instituted a group violence intervention program a number of years ago, just celebrated 500 days without a juvenile homicide.
I got that text
It's
last
amazing.
night.
I did too.
Isn't that great? So Casey's with us. Casey was a defense attorney for juveniles in Pulaski County for a couple of decades,
Yeah.
and now works for the prosecutor's office. And I think you were on episode 1 or 2, at least so far, of this
I
season.
believe so. I don't know.
I can't remember. Anyway,
Three. It was 3. Yeah.
it was 3. Okay, so it just dropped.
Yeah.
And so I think we did interview with you, Casey, about a year ago.
Yes. I was only a year into it at that point. It was just my year anniversary is about what that was with the
Okay.
prosecutor's office.
So in the past year, what's happening, and what are you planning kind of for Pulaski County?
Well, I mean, in reality, we're in Will's first term. That's my boss, Will Jones is, and he took office in January of 2023, and then I joined him just about 6 months after that. And so, the big structure of everything he was trying to do, I feel like that we have bitten off at pieces of each of those goals that he had, and I think we're appropriately into those goals at this point. And so even in the past year, a year ago, we had just switched over our technology. We had an archaic technology system within our office. Everything was still paper files. Everybody was, writing on their files. And last March, which a year
You
ago was
upgrade
still...
the fax machines?
We upgraded to fax machines. I think we've tried to eliminate fax machines at all costs in there, because no one ever gets what actually comes into the fax machine. So Carpel case management was implemented. It was a very big undertaking, and just bringing us up to this 21st century and letting us have access to better digital technology, having our files with us anywhere we go. If we need to work on something, having access to all of that within the court system is really helpful. And we receive that now from law enforcement in a digital uploaded way, which allows for faster case processing, which is a really big deal in a judicial district that has the caseload that we have. I think we also have gotten to see a reduction in violence since I saw y'all a year ago for the interview. We don't break down numbers as well as I think we would like to for adult versus youth violence and that sort of thing, but we have looked at the fact that from 2022 to the end of 2024, our violent crime was down about 44%. Homicides were down about 44%. And so by nature of that, some of those being youth, we would have seen that. Now there has been an uptick, in January, since January of this year, but we won't know. Hopefully that will slow back down. Sometime there are just those unfortunate situations that cause that uptick, but it has definitely slowed down since January. And as far as the GVI that you mentioned, I feel like we've made great progress with it. I think just a year ago we were starting to get into that, hearing and learning from Jefferson County and from Judge Brown and what impact that was starting to have, and started to advocate for it to be brought to our judicial district. I don't know that our state can be hugely successful at the youth violence reduction if our capital judicial district doesn't take that on. And so funding is always, an issue with that, and just looking for the funding and convincing people that it is that have the ability to fund it, that it is important enough to do. But seeing the success that Jefferson County has had, I think, has definitely caused a lot of newfound interest. We do have our county judge appearing to be very interested in helping bring that here. Our mayor is clearly very interested in helping bringing it here. I think our mayor of the city of Little Rock. We also have reached out to the mayor of North Little Rock, and he seems interested. interested. I've talked to the police chief, both in Jacksonville and our police chief here. Both seem very interested in it. So I think that big picture, we can see that coming and working in our county as a whole. Just getting it started and getting it going in Little Rock so that we can feel that impact big and soon is most important to us at this time. But I feel like for the first time we have a lot of really important leaders sitting around the same table. I won't ever sit and say that we are any part of that. We have been thankful and fortunate to get to sit around those tables and try to see that movement. I think it's the only way that we're going to attack youth violence, and working on that 2-generation model that I think that GVI really does focus on, with the help of Restore Hope and 100 Families. We have, and you, Paul, put this best to me for my brain to understand, but that GVI is infrastructure. That's really helpful for me to understand, because I got a little bit down one day feeling like there was a lot of funding that had been cut just federally across the board, and that feels like it hurts a lot of our services. We've always felt like we had services in place, but not infrastructure in place. And so the advocacy that we've been doing for the last year has been to bring that infrastructure here. And then I by no means want that to mean that our services dwindle or go by the wayside. So both are very important, but having that structure in our judicial district and in this county specifically to bring all of those to the best way to work is still a very important thing that we are behind and working on. So.
Well, and it feels like one of the most important things we've been able to do. Like a couple months ago, we were actually in this room around this table eating lunch with Pulaski County partners, right?
Yes.
And so calling attention to the need in the communities, the prevention-focused aspect of GVI and of the work that you all are doing in the prosecutor's office specifically. A little bit of a different approach for a prosecutor's office, but it's also one that, Governor Sanders with the PROTECT Act and all the different pieces of prevention funding that have gone into place have really been coalescing this group to where we actually had a group here to talk about that approach. So
I
it's
got
been
the chills at that,
Right,
at that group. It was
right.
the best that I'd seen in 2 years of us. Really, everybody that has wanted and fought for it and advocated for it for 2+ years. It seemed like we got all the important players around the table, and that we had a really good response and a really good reaction, and then a desire of everybody to get on board. And I don't know that anything would make me more proud than to think that, we finally make that progress here, like you said. And for the prosecutor's office to hopefully be pushing or leading that in some way, I do think speaks a lot to how Will wants to address the issue. It isn't just about suppression for him. It isn't just about prosecution. That always needs to happen. It has to happen from our office, and it has to happen to the extent that it protects our community and makes our community safer as a whole. But we are never going to do that successfully if we haven't also gotten our hands in the prevention intervention piece, and that part is very different. And it makes me very proud of him. I would not have come and worked for anybody else that didn't have that goal, and that was the thing that wooed me over here. And I guess I sat before you today, and I feel like stronger and more hopeful than I did a year ago, because it feels like each month, each table we're around, each session that we move to, even though it can feel like a lot of talking sometime and not seeing all the action all the time, because it just can't move as fast as we all want it to move. Every time that we're around a table, I feel like we're one step closer to it, and so that's a real positive.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the hard part right now of turning over rocks, trying to find the money to invest in some of that infrastructure pieces that are needed.
Yeah.
But I think we've identified some real potentials. By end of this calendar year, I think
so too.
I think we'll have the funding to get started.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Hey, Doc.
Hey, how
are
you doing?
you?
Good to see everybody.
Hey. So Dr. Fitzhill just joined us, and we're just doing updates from when we dropped episodes, and I think your episode just dropped.
Yeah, that was good. I appreciate y'all did a great job. That was good work. I mean,
That's them right there.
Okay, yeah. Well, I've got a lot of comments on your narration.
Oh, yeah. Well, I read. Yeah, I can only take credit for reading it.
Yeah, you read
And
the
if you
script.
saw all the takes, I don't know that you'd be giving me any props.
Yeah, no, it was a good job though. Appreciate you all bringing this crisis to the surface, and rather than just on the back end of treating it when it happens. And we're really I'm excited about what we've been able to do since the last time, over the last year. I remember when I was just mentioned when families that's how I met you, from the mothers who had lost their children, brought us into the office, and that connection. And they said, "Hey, we want you to go to the prosecutor's office." Nobody ever asked me to go to the prosecutor's office before, and said we have a relationship. But I want to attribute that to Casey's and Will outreach to that community of hurting communities, which we had been talking to the mothers of black sons standing against death, and just trying to look at how this hurting community really needed a voice. And you all have really giving them a platform for that that has really given them some incentives to speak up. Sometimes people don't speak up when they don't feel like their voices are being heard, and so I want to say kudos to you all for for doing that, because we know as much needs to be done. But one thing for sure, if we do nothing, we'll continue seeing the same results.
It's
and so
insanity, right?
that's exactly
Right. Real close to it.
Yeah. So try something. In Desert Storm. I mean, I think when I was in training, getting ready for war, my drill sergeant always said, I'll never forget this. I was going through a battle skills exercise, and we walked through an ambush, and I froze. And he said, he walked up to me. I was in ROTC. He said, give me your dog tags. Let me send them home to your family. He said, you froze. He said, so you're dead. He said, you may have made it out if you at least done something and shot at somebody. He said, but because you done nothing, you're done. He said, so when you see drop, roll, do something, but don't freeze. And so that's what we're trying not to do with this crisis, is to do nothing and continue to just talk and hope something happens. Hey, like I say, we'll ask for forgiveness before we ask for permission, but at least we're going to try to do something, and try to make something happen. I appreciate what you all are doing in order to shine a light on this darkness that continues to plague, in the United States of America, 30 black families every day. Every day. I mean, so when you look at it, to realize, I think I did the numbers on your show, and I said, if that was happening in any other country, we'd send Navy SEALs in. So this is important that we understand this tragedy that's taking place in our community, and not only on the back end, as we talk about, suppress, but on the front end to see, what are the prevention measures, what are the intervention measures, what are the diversion measures, what are the rehabilitation measures, what are the resuscitation measures, and how can we plug our communities into those groups or categories and see, how do you want to be a part of the solution, and rather than just talking about what the crisis is. And so this gives us an element, and there are many ways to do that, and there's not only one way to get it done. And so everybody has strengths and weaknesses. As a football coach, it's like a team. Everybody plays a different position, but the goal is to score a touchdown. And when we save lives, we score touchdowns.
That's so good. You've got some, you were working, I think last year when we were filming, you were working on a pilot program to prove concept around this idea of this Meta 24 program that you brought in. But now,
full steam ahead. I'm just telling you.
Understatement, right?
And God has blessed me with the opportunity to be able to push forward with the Meta program online, the virtual piece of it. I don't know if she doesn't even realize this, when the position that I was telling her that I was taking back over, that we're going fast and furious with Dr. Prince and the Meta 24 program for our youth. The thing that we're excited about now at Arkansas Baptist, we have a certificate program, and that we can tie this into young people who maybe don't want to go to school for 4 years, but we can take them, and because of Title IV funding, and be able to take them, house them, feed them, and then give them a certificate and do the work. Same thing you've been doing and what you've been doing with 100 families, but we can take those kids now. No, kids does not want to be thinking about, in communication 4 years, even though that may be what we aspire to do for them. But we just got to feed it to them a little bit differently. And so, exactly right. We got to eat this elephant one bite at a time. And so we're going to go hard, the esports is going to be a major, major deal for us as we teach in technology, because it attracts kids. And and
a 13-year-old trying to get over there.
No question. And so,
you got transportation.
Working on that.
Well, yeah. We're going to
Work in
give them a bus
progress.
ticket, you know.
Yeah.
But one of the things we're looking at is you met the trades program. I mean, we're going to try to start our first welding program. We got the CDL now to certify the things we've been doing. But those things that when I visited the juvenile detention facilities with, and it was so interesting. The first time I went with Casey to the facility, the young men started hollering my name, and she said, well, those were my 16-year-old kids.
Yeah. And that was at Alexander.
Yeah. Well, this was in the.
I took him to the juvenile jail.
Was it?
Yeah,
Oh, it was the JDC.
yeah.
I got it.
And
Okay.
so I
Probably there too.
These are kids
Yeah.
who knew from the program
From
that
the
you
program.
put together in the Little Rock School District.
And then I just got a call last week to do another football camp at Alexander, which we're going to do, but it's going to be real interesting. Something I'm so excited about. You know who's going to do the football program? The Arkansas Baptist College football team.
That's awesome.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
to be able to take those kids
that
out,
mentoring
out
great.
there to let them to actually drive them into the facility, and then said, okay, then our church is going to feed, and we're going to have a day, and then we're going to actually. And I know you'll love this. We're gonna do volleyball for the girls.
I do. Gotta have something for
you
the
gotta
girls
have
out
girls
there.
out there.
That's right.
So we've been working on that. So I mean, it's exciting time, and the deal is you want to connect with those individuals because not the one, unfortunately, the one of the juveniles had 39 years. All right, so that's long. But others, if we can inspire, and grow hope and give them a vision for their lives, that's what we're all about. And but oftentimes we ask people to stop doing what they're doing, but we don't have anything for them to do.
No alternative.
That's
They
exactly
still
right.
go back and do the same thing.
Exactly. So now to be able to say, well, come do this for 16 weeks. So the welding program, the 16 weeks, or the certificate program, or whatever. Okay, the esports program to do this, and then let's recalibrate. Let's think about what's going to be next. But giving some immediate wins is so important when you're taking a kid out of his environment. Just last week, Coach Bailey and I, in recruiting for Arkansas Baptist College, we went to Greenville, Mississippi. All right, because we on our way we stopped through the Delta, been to Dumas, and we just and kids said, "What are you going to do?" Nobody asked me to do anything. We recruited 7 kids just by asking our kids to come and understanding. The crisis that we're facing in the United States today is oftentimes, as I said, because many kids don't have access. They don't have opportunities, or they don't have relationships. You always often talk about the relationship piece and being able to connect those kids in. And I say we pay for them to go to prison. Well, let's pay for them to go to school. And so the money is there, but they didn't know that. And so, hey, that's the deal. We'll figure it out. You want to come? Let's go. But what we realize, the reason that the prison population continues to grow is because the enrollment of black males being in higher education and finishing high school is decreasing. And so if you want to change that, you have to attack those core issues because that's what the numbers would suggest. There's a reason in 1980 that we had less than 300,000 prisoners in the United States of America compared to in 21st century size 2.4 million. Well, if you go back and look at the dropout rate, you go back and look at the teenage pregnancy rate, you go back and look at those core factors, that's why we're losing. So we have to invest in those issues if we want to win. But you can't win losing. And so we have to go back and really be intentional about what we're going to do. And everybody can't do everything, but there are some people that can find specific things that they can do. You realize who's the highest of teenage pregnancy in the United States of America? Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Well, you go back and look and see how that correlates to the crisis that we're having for education and prison enrollment. So how do we change that? What do we need to do? So it's really, when you look at COVID-19 and you look at how our nation attacked that crisis and how we looked at the public health crisis and how we gave a game plan, stay 6 feet away, do this, do that. This is how you keep the virus from spreading. In the community, that's what we talk about First and 45. Okay, here's the game plan if you want to do that. So the recruiting game plan, what I ask all my guys to regurgitate, it's real simple. All right, I have my non-negotiables come to Arkansas Baptist College to get in this program. No guns, no knives, no drugs. That's it. If you want to fight, we'll start a boxing team, and then we'll let you. We'll go 3 rounds with 3 others, and then we're gonna hug each other because you know why?
Healthy
You are
channels.
my brother's keeper. All right, that's what if you do that, I need you to do 3 other things. You won't do? You won't bring it? Nope. I need you to wake up, show up, and follow up. Will you do that every day? I said, when you take a rock and you hitting a stone, it's not the first one that cracks it. It's usually the 99th one that breaks it. So you're going to hit it every day to get to where you want to go. I said, if you'll do those 6 things, I got 3 things for you. I'm going to give you fatherly love, okay? With all the good food, soul food cuisine, as you know, that you want. You've been there.
I can testify.
Yeah, exactly right. And education with godly expectations, that's 9. And 10, you'll get a certificate or you'll graduate. You want to do that? Yes, sir. You admit it. Let's roll. And that's it. I mean, so we don't need to do all of this stuff and have to give a kid no, it's too complicated. We're trying to find reason to keep people out. I'm trying to find reason to get them in. So when we do that, then we can change their lives. In order to clean a fish, you got to catch it first. We try to clean fish, we ain't caught them. So we just continue to try to reach out and touch those who are not being touched.
Every time I hear him speak, or anytime even at a table with the 2 of you, and this won't be long, I know we're almost done, but it's the relationship piece. I think that relationships are what, we say all the time, hurt people, and the community, the relations have to heal the people. And so that starts with us. If we're going to be the ones working on it and working on down, and when he speaks like that to the kids and the boys that he's trying to recruit there, that's the piece that is being created is relationally. And I do think that we've made huge strides on that this past year, just building relationships and knowing who we can trust when we show up at a table to do the work. So
And then hopefully changed kids go back to changed families.
Absolutely.
Trickle on down to them. Yep.
Okay.
Great. That's what we
Outstanding.
hope to
Well,
do.
thank you all, both of you.
Yeah,
For,
thank you.
It's a real honor to be able to
Thanks.
work with you in this community.
Wonderful partners.
Try to help folks.
And I appreciate what you all are doing to shine a light on this and to offer alternatives in various ways. The 100 Families piece, you have to have that supporting element there as one, because many times the suspensions send kids back home.
That's right.
All right, and then so you send them back to the trauma that caused the suspension. And then that's what we find out, that 90% of those kids are in the juvenile detention facility
Right.
and will recidivate within 5 years for 12-year suspension in Pine Bluff. So we can't just send our kids out. That's not the solution.
Right.
And so what you have there for a family aspect of it is incredible, and I appreciate what you all are doing.
It's infrastructure.
It's
Yep.
caused deeper
it's-
relationships with our school partners too,
Yes.
which is good.
Well, thank you all.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Smart Justice is a production of Restore Hope, a software and services organization providing proven community-driven approaches leading to better outcomes for at-risk families. Executive Director of Restore Hope is Paul Chapman, with Associate Directors Karen Phillips and Sarah Littleton. Visit smartjustice.org for more coverage on justice system-related issues. There you can also sign up for our weekly newsletter so you never miss the latest headlines. And please subscribe to this channel and leave us a rating and review.